This is the scariest thing about EVs, batteries, and it's not fire. They say EVs are the future, the golden ticket to a cleaner, greener world. But beneath that shiny, eco-friendly veneer lies a terrifying truth that no one is talking about. Sure, the threat of battery fires is scary enough, but what if we told you there's something even worse lurking in the shadows, something that could turn your safe electric car into a ticking time bomb? Buckle up, because we're about to dive into the real nightmare of EVs, a danger so insidious it could literally blow up in your face: thermal runaway in lithium-ion batteries. We all know lithium-ion batteries can turn into flaming fireballs, but there's something even more sinister beneath the surface: thermal runaway. It sounds technical, but it means that the battery in your EV, the thing that powers your green car, can become a ticking time bomb without you even knowing it. When an EV's lithium-ion battery gets damaged or simply wears out, it can trigger a nightmare scenario. The battery cells get hotter and hotter until one cell fails. The failure doesn't stop there. It spreads like a virus, causing other cells to overheat and fail in a cascading chain reaction. Imagine that, a heat wave within your car's battery that doesn't stop until the entire thing is fried. Not just a couple of cells, but the entire battery pack can be reduced to useless junk. Your car, that expensive, futuristic EV, could be left a smoldering wreck, or, if you're lucky, just a very expensive paperweight. And here's the kicker: thermal runaway can happen even if the battery doesn't catch fire. You might not even realize your EV is on a one-way trip to destruction until it's too late. Your car could shut down unexpectedly, leaving you stranded in the middle of nowhere, or worse, lead to a catastrophic failure beyond repair. They'll tell you it's rare, but do you really want to gamble on that? The truth is, the scariest thing about EV batteries isn't the fires. It's the fact that you never know when or if your battery is going to fail. So go ahead, drive your EV, but don't say you weren't warned. But that's not all. There's also another problem: the dreaded vapor cloud explosion, or VCE. What exactly is a vapor cloud explosion? Well, picture this. Your EV's battery, that glorified bundle of lithium-ion cells, starts to degrade or get damaged. Instead of just sitting there, they begin to leak flammable gases. Now, these gases don't just dissipate harmlessly into the air. They accumulate, and here's where things get terrifying. In confined spaces like your average parking garage, these gases can gather into a concentrated, invisible cloud of potential doom. If that cloud finds an ignition source, boom. You're not just looking at a small puff of smoke. You're talking about a violent explosion that can send shock waves rippling through concrete, steel, and anything else in its path. It's like having a miniature gas bomb under your car, just waiting for the right moment to turn your green dream into a full-blown disaster. Let's talk numbers for a second, just to drive this point home. A single kilowatt-hour of battery capacity can provide anywhere from 500 to 6,000 liters of flammable gas. Think about that. Your typical EV packs 60 to 100 kilowatt-hours, meaning that if things go south, you're looking at potentially releasing thousands, even hundreds of thousands, of liters of flammable gas. It's enough to fill an entire parking garage with a deadly vapor cloud. And it gets worse. Unlike a fire, which at least gives you some warning with smoke and heat, a vapor cloud is silent and invisible until it's too late. You could be sitting in your car, completely unaware that you're surrounded by a bomb just waiting to go off. The ignition could come from anything: a spark from another vehicle, a stray cigarette, or even static electricity. Experiments have shown that a partially charged battery might not ignite right away. That might sound like good news, but it's actually worse. Far worse. Why? Because instead of a fire you'd expect, you're now dealing with a much more sinister threat. An explosion waiting to happen. Just not yet. Here's how it plays out. Those flammable gases, if they don't ignite immediately, start to build up, especially in confined spaces like a garage, an underground parking lot, or a charging station. These gases are sneaky, silent, invisible, and completely undetectable until they've reached a critical mass. You could go about your day blissfully unaware that your car is slowly filling up the space around it with a lethal cocktail of gases. And when those gases accumulate, that's when things get truly terrifying. The hazard switches from fire, which is scary enough, to a potential explosion that could be even more devastating. Picture this. You park your EV in a garage, head inside, and go about your evening. Hours later, all it takes is one tiny spark, and boom, a massive explosion that could tear through concrete, destroy vehicles, and endanger lives. This isn't just speculation. There's real science behind it. Studies and experiments have shown that these gas buildups are not only possible, but highly probable under certain conditions. What's worse is that because the battery doesn't always ignite right away, this buildup can go unnoticed until it's too late. You might think you've dodged a bullet when there's no immediate fire, but in reality, you've just shifted the hazard from an instant blaze to a delayed but much more deadly explosion. All of this is not some far-fetched scenario. There's a real-life example to back it up. A Tesla once drove over debris that punctured its battery. After being parked in a garage, it caused exactly this kind of vapor cloud explosion. The result? Not just one, but 3 nearby cars were destroyed in the blast. Think about that for a second. 3 cars, obliterated, and all it took was one puncture, a few hours of gas accumulation, and a tiny spark? This example isn't just a horror story, it's a wake-up call. It's the kind of thing that shows just how dangerous EVs can be when things go wrong. We're not talking about a vehicle malfunction here. We're talking about an explosion that can wipe out everything around it. As if that wasn't bad enough, there's another layer of problem waiting around the corner. When this explosion happens, you'd need to put the fire out, right? Well, that's another problem. EV fires are a whole different level of nightmare. Lithium-ion batteries, which power your beloved electric car, are notoriously difficult to put out. Why? Because they often require way more water to control than a conventional fire. We're talking thousands of gallons, which is a serious problem if you're dealing with a blaze in a confined space like a garage or a parking deck. Here's the kicker. It's not just about dumping water on the fire. Lithium-ion batteries are prone to something called thermal runaway, where one cell's failure causes a chain reaction, spreading heat and flames to the other cells. This means that even if you think you've put the fire out, there's a high chance that the cells could reignite. We're not talking about hours. Sometimes it can be days or even weeks before the fire completely dies down. Imagine the horror of a smoldering, reigniting fire still burning days after you thought it was over. That's the kind of ongoing risk you're dealing with. But wait, there's more. As if the sheer volume of water wasn't enough of a challenge, there are also toxic gases released during an EV fire. Lithium-ion batteries don't just burn, they release hazardous fumes that are incredibly dangerous. These gases can include everything from toxic chemicals to corrosive compounds that are harmful to breathe and can cause severe health issues. So, not only are you fighting a fire that refuses to go out, you're also dealing with a toxic cloud that can pose serious risks to firefighters, first responders, and anyone nearby.